We're going to take the bolt out of the gun. Yeah, this is where we're going to get difficult because I don't have 3 hands. I can't pull this, hold the bolt, pull this back, and stick the pin in place. So we're going to use my vise. So I mentioned I was going to hit this with a punch. Actually, I may just tap it with a hammer. So, and the reason I'm telling you that is that down here where the pliers are grabbing it, it's probably not going to get all cherry red.
Hi, and welcome to Over the Gunsmith's Shoulder. I'm Gene Kelly, president of the American Gunsmithing Institute, and in this segment, Master Gunsmith Ken Brooks is going to walk you step by step through a gunsmithing repair. You're going to learn a lot. And if you'd like to learn to be a certified professional gunsmith, then go to AmericanGunsmithingInstitute.com and request an information package. Now let's learn from Ken.
Well, we're back at the bench. Got one of my favorite type of guns, Mauser 98. Not necessarily this specific one, but somebody's done a sporter job on her, and the gun's in the shop for a low scope safety. So they've mounted a scope, they got a low bolt handle, all well and good, but they got the military safety, which isn't conducive to our scope, obviously. So that's what it's in the shop for, but it's also got a couple other things going on. If you'll note, I think you'll be able to see it. Move my hand here. Can you hear it or see it? Yeah, the scope's not tight. The nuts here are tight, so it's tight on the bases, but the bases aren't tight on the gun. So we're going to need to address that. The gun's in the shop for the low scope safety. That's what I'm going to do first, and that's what we're going to focus on for this over the shoulder. If we get it knocked out in time, then we'll address the loose scope. If we don't, then you'll just have to figure out how to fix a loose scope on your own. No worries. There are a couple things that we're going to want to do first and foremost. We got to get the old safety out. We want to make sure that the bolt closes completely, and I'll show you where we're going with that, so the new safety is going to work correctly. So normally on a military Mauser, you can flip the safety to where it's pointed straight up, and the bolt handle will raise. You can take the bolt out of the gun and unscrew the bolt sleeve. But you can't do that with the scope in the way. So we're going to take the bolt out of the gun. We're going to need to pull the cocking piece back so we can rotate the safety into the straight up position. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. This little notch right here is actually so you can use, I know this is a rimmed cartridge, use the rim of your 8x57 or 757, whatever, to grab and pull back on the cocking piece to rotate the safety into the straight up position. Okay, that's one way. Another way is the cutout for the sear to fit. The sear pops back up. When you pull the trigger, the sear moves down, gun goes off, cocking piece goes forward, the sear, let's see here, we can see it. So right down in here's your sear. You pull the trigger, sear goes down, striker goes forward. When you release the trigger, the sear moves back up. Well, if you didn't have this cutout, the sear would hit on the bottom of the cocking piece and the trigger would flop around under and have unsprung travel. So again, just explaining what we got going on. This notch, oftentimes, I used to be able to, for arthritis and old age caught me, grab a hold of that and pull that cocking piece back and rotate. Oh, look, I did it. And then simply rotate the safety into the up position. Okay. Last but not least, you can always grab this portion of the cocking piece, the sear portion, in a vise, clamp it tight in the vise, my fingers being the vise, and grab the bolt body here, pull it forward, the cocking piece will move, will stay in the vise. You pull the bolt forward, rotate the safety up, and unscrew it. So again, just a couple 3 ways of putting that safety in the straight up position. I say straight up because when the bolt handle's down, let me get this apart real quick. So when the bolt's closed, ready to fire, let me get a pointer real quick. This notch right here. So again, this is bolts closed, ready to fire the gun. Ejector slot straight up. This notch is here. The safety is right here. The nose of the pivot of the safety fits in this slot. If it's rotated all the way to what is the right side, you can't open the bolt. The gun's on safe, can't open the bolt. The safety straight up, like we have it here. There's a cutout that allows you to open the bolt and unscrew the bolt sleeve. So let me take this apart real quick, show you what I'm talking about. So this is the nose of the pivot. See how we're cut? So here's our bolt. Here's our safety in the fire position. Cocking piece fits down here, can move forward. When we rotate it up, the cocking piece is held back by this flange. This is the straight up position. All the way to the right, the locked position. Right here we have clearance. So when we're straight up, got to turn this around. It's a better view. We're in the fire position here. We rotate this like so. We can open our bolt. Dexterity in the fingers. There we go. Bolt rotates like so and clears. When we're all the way to the left, that protrusion enters that notch, and we can't open the bolt. Bolt has to be able to rotate past that. That's basics. Here's our low scope safety. We got something very similar going on, but we're going to get to that later. Remove our safety, put it over there. Going to go back to the gun and the bolt with the firing pin, bolt sleeve out, put the bolt in and lower it. That little half moon cutout that I was just talking about, that the nose of the safety pivot, okay, that needs to line up with the bolt guide groove in the receiver. So this bolt guide, here's the notch. It's a groove that goes all the way forward. And that's for the bolt guide to slip through. If this notch lines up with that, the notch in the back of the bolt lines up with the notch in the receiver for the bolt guide, then we know that the bolt is closed all the way. If it over closes, you might want to figure out a way to limit how far the bolt handle lowers. Different ways of doing that. You can put a dowel in the stock. You can put a spot of weld on the bottom of the bolt handle, blah, blah, blah. If it doesn't go all the way, which is more common, people weld on their bolt handles. They don't dress them down well enough. They don't notch the receiver well enough, whatever. The bolt goes in, and instead of going to there, it goes to there. We don't line up. Well, our new safety is not going to be able to fit in that notch. So make sure that your bolt handle goes all the way down to where that notch lines up with the groove in the receiver. All right, all well and good. Now, before we get any more carried away, I guess I should probably show you how to take the safety out. So here's the safety in our bolt sleeve. Here's in the fire position. We rotate the safety all the way over into the safe locked position. Pull the safety straight back. Comes right out. Now, the new safety, the low scope safety, this particular one, and there are lots of different low scope safeties. This is the one we're using, so this is the only one we're going to cover. You know, slide it in. The shaft goes in the bolt sleeve. This leg of the safety fits in front of this flange. Rotate it all the way over to the left, and that flange, this flange on the bolt sleeve and this leg or flange of the safety itself prevents the safety from coming out and getting lost. And this is going to rotate up and down, on, off, when we're done. Now, there's a couple different things going on here. We got a lot of extra play. Most of the time, this particular type of safety comes relatively soft. So this leg can often be bent. You can bend it back, because a lot of times guys aren't going to want that slop right there, that fore and aft play that can be in that. The other thing is I like to bend it down just so it's closer to the bolt sleeve and will catch on the flange with just a little more force, but we'll get that in a minute. So once the low scope safety's in, we're going to reinstall the firing pin and the cocking piece. Like I was mentioning, you can put the safety halfway on, the military safety, and screw it back into the bolt, and away we go. Low scope safety, you can't do that. So I have various pieces of spring stock, paper clips, whatever. You're going to compress the firing pin spring, pushing the bolt sleeve onto the firing pin, compressing the spring. Use your rod, piece of spring stock, to go in front of the cocking piece and simply hold it in the rearward position. Now the firing pin assembly will screw into our bolt. Sometimes you have to push your bolt sleeve lock to get it to rotate that last little bit. It'll come to right here and catch. Sometimes you have to push it in. This particular one I don't have to. Walk comes around here and snaps into place, locking the bolt sleeve in position. Now I got to remove that pin. I can grab it with a pair of pliers and pull it out. I can grasp that cocking piece, pull it forward, taking tension off of it and letting gravity allow the rod to fall out, which is what I did. Now I'm simply going to put this back in the gun because we don't know. It may drop in, it may work. Now, you know my philosophy on drop-in parts. They drop in. Some of them work. Some of them don't work. Most of them don't work. Those that do drop in and work rarely work correctly. So we also got to figure out if it does work, great. If it doesn't, how doesn't it work? What's going on? Where are we going to have to make our modifications? So it works basically the same way. You're going to have a cam right here that as we wrote, this is the military safety. Our cocking piece fits here. So the front of it in the cock position sits like so. This inclined plane catches the cocking piece as the safety is rotated up, pulling the cocking piece back off of the sear to this position. This has got to do the same thing. It goes on. I thought I saw the cocking piece move back, so with the safety on, pull the trigger. Trigger returns fully, which means if the trigger moves back, the sear moves down. We release the trigger returns all the way forward, which means the sear moves all the way back up. So it's getting back in front of the cocking piece. So now when the safety's taken off, the cocking piece is allowed to fall forward or move forward onto the sear. This is a good thing. This is what we want. So what's nice is it does that. Now we've got a little bit of play in our safety. Remember I was talking about that? I don't like that fore and aft play. If you pull this all the way to the rear, it doesn't want to move up. If I push it all the way forward, it's closer to the front of the cocking piece and it's more likely to go on. So that's one of the reasons I like taking that play out of there. That I also don't like it when it rattles. You can't really hear it too much, but you can see it's just sloppy and I don't like that. Now, I've done it a couple times. We're going to now take it apart, see where it's rubbing. Yeah, this is where we're going to get difficult because I don't have three hands. I can't pull this, hold the bolt, pull this back, and stick the pin in place. So we're going to use my vise. All right, in this view, you can see, and we're talking about taking it apart before. So cocking piece, the two sear surfaces of the cocking piece, held tight in the vise. Going to pull the bolt forward, shove our pin between the front of the cocking piece and the back of the bolt sleeve. See that? Now push in our bolt sleeve lock and unscrew it. Back to the bench. All right, so we're going to go ahead and use my nylon block here, put our firing pin in. You can use your bench, just be aware your firing pin's going to poke into whatever. We don't want to damage our firing pin tip. So placing the firing pin in our block, grabbing our bolt sleeve, I can pull down. Pin will come out, or you can pull it out, rotate safety, not rotate the cocking piece, pull it off. There's our bolt sleeve. And now I can pull our safety out and we can look and see. I'm going to take my glasses off so because I'm up close here. Got some rub marks. At this point, I'm also going to point out we got some casting flaws and some roughness. See, big casting flaw here. So normally when I do these, I get them fitted. I polish them all up. The last couple that I've done have been mild steel, so I've case hardened them. And for whatever reason, it color cased and it looked really cool. So, and it was just a freak because I don't do the color case thing. It's just in the tempering process, that's how it looked. So I will polish that all up. But we're going to the fitting process at this point. Going to put the safety back in here. So we want to take out this play, and I also want to try and bend that down. Some of these safeties are a little harder than others. Usually I can bend them cold. Sometimes they break. It's kind of up to you. If you're worried about breaking it, heat the parts you're looking to bend, red hot, and bend them. That's fine. I'm going to try it cold. If it breaks, we'll go get another one. It sucks. I'll be able to rebuild it. I'm not going to break a major part of it, but hopefully it won't. But it's a good thing. This is over the shoulder. Let's try something, right? So what I'm going to do, actually, is I'm going to lay this down. I'm going to take a little punch, and I'm going to just try to bend. Actually, before we do that, before we get carried away, I'm going to take a knife and see how hard is this. I can cut into that pretty well. So it's relatively soft. Again, if you're worried about it, just don't, heat it red and then go for it. I'm going to hit this. I'm not squishing the leg to the rear. I'm trying to bend it just down just a little bit. Yeah, I don't think that's working. All right. So at this point, we have to take out this play. We got to. And then I want to bend that leg down a little bit. So we're going to head up to where my oxygen and acetylene is, and we'll heat this red and do some bending at that point. Always take your bolt sleeve with you if it's in a different spot. So we're going to be able to check it even when it's hot. You can use pliers and whatnot to see it. Before we do that, I am going to take this and polish this cam surface. This is the part that actually comes into contact with the cocking piece, and as this is rotated up, pushes the cocking piece back. So I'm going to polish that just a little bit on my vise. All right, so what I want is just one straight facet. That's a little harder than some of the others. This is one of the later ones that I've bought. It's still fileable, but it's a little tougher, if you will. So I just kept that one straight facet. Put some 400 grit sandpaper on it and do that. Now I'm going to go up and we're going to, no, I lied to you. I'm going to go ahead and polish this first. Because if we get up there and I get it bent and everything's right, then I'm going to want to temper this. Might as well do it while we're there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do some polishing on this real quick. Cameraman Robert will probably show you some of it. And probably not all of it. Some of that roughness on that. I'm going to do this area right here too, just to make it look a little nicer. And that's all this is for, is strictly cosmetic. It's not doing anything for the mechanics of it. And this flat surface right there looks a little rough. Now, for a lot of times, I'll break all these sharp edges too, just because I don't want them digging into me. I don't want any of those sharp edges. I don't want to cut my thumb every time I put the gun on safe. I want to be able to activate the safety. I don't want it so dull. Breaking those edges. And you don't have to do any of this. This is something that I do. But if you guys don't want to do it, fine. So that casting mark there, it's on the bottom. I'm not even going to worry about that. Just trying to make it look a little nicer here and there. All right, we're ready to take this up and do some bending. All right, so we have our vise. Here's our safety, obviously. So I'm going to heat up this leg, and then I'm simply going to tap it, because the first process we're doing is moving it towards, so it's going to sit in the gun like so. I want to pinch this flange closer to this flange. So I'm just going to tap it. Then the next thing is moving this leg closer to the bolt sleeve. So I'll simply hit it right there after I get it heated red. So I mentioned I was going to hit this with a punch. Actually, I may just tap it with a hammer. You can see I'm turning red. Yeah, we keep slipping in the vise, dang it. There. That did it a little bit. I don't want to go a long ways. And that's actually a little more orange than I want. But now we're going to bend it down just a skosh. And I know you can't see this. What I did is I just hit it right like so. And I've moved it several times. Now, I haven't checked this to find out what kind of metal it is. So we're going to take this out and quench it in oil. I didn't want to drop that. There we go. Nice clean paper towels. So that's all in there. It's still a little warm. I got some nice, real fresh, clean water right here. Not. But it doesn't have to be. So that's just so I can. So we go on. You can see we've taken a lot of that back and forth out. It rocks in there. I think I'm going to move it in both ways again. I'm going to try and pinch that leg closer to the rear and move it down just a little more. So this is the leg we had heated red when we quenched it. So if this is oil hardening steel, that'll be hard. Sounds hard to me. So this particular one, that's probably the reason that it didn't bend when I was tapping it at the bench. And so I didn't want to get carried away because I thought it might be oil hardening steel. And that's a good lesson because I have bought these where they're butter soft. You can almost bend that with your fingers. Not quite, but almost. It was just super soft. So at this point, after I heated it, did my adjustments, quenched it in oil, I've done a couple things. I've started to adjust the shape where we want. Second, I found out it's oil hardening steel. So when we're done, I'm going to need to heat it red, quench it in oil, and then temper it to a spring-like quality, which will be polish it to bare white metal, and then heat it up to a light blue. All well and good. Now we're back to bending, heating and bending. Yeah, it looked like that bent a bit. Again, I don't have to go a long way, so I don't want to get carried away. Same thing with doing it this way. Turn that off. And I know, again, my fingers are in the way. Oh, that moved that one a long ways. I might have moved that too far. We shall see. Again, since we know it's oil hardening steel, I don't exactly want to drop that in water or it could break. I just got some different oil. So this is where I quenched it. I don't want people going, hey, he's quenching it twice, 3 times, what's going on? Once it's quenched in oil, it's the same oil, just that warmed up a bit, so I just was dinking around. Then the water's just to cool it so I can handle it. All right. Well, we go on. Let me take my glasses off so I can see. I got a little brass pointer down in here. So I have bent this leg down and closer to this flange. So now the back and forth, I've taken out a ton of that. The flange now has full engagement here. It's less likely to try to slip out. That's going to work. That's going to work well. Now, we already know that it worked before. Before we did anything, we put it in the gun. It worked. It just was sloppy and wasn't what I considered quality enough to be where I was going to cut it loose. So I have made this a straight facet, and I polished that. We saw that. At this point, I'm going to heat this red, the whole thing, quench it in oil. Then we'll have to do some polishing, and then we will heat it to a nice, pretty blue color for temper. All right, so what are the parts of the safety that are going to be critical? The biggest one is going to be that cocking cam. We want it to be hard and tough because it has to pull the cocking piece back, constant wear and tear. If the thumb piece out here is a little hard, so what, as long as it's not brittle. If it's a little soft, so what, if as long as it's not so soft it bends. So the critical part is simply where it engages that cocking piece. Now, I've clamped it up front with the pliers where it engages the back of the bolt, that notch in the bolt to prevent the bolt handle from opening. As long as it's there and fairly tough, I'm not too worried about it. It doesn't have to be tempered to any kind of, we don't want it brittle. It can be a little on the soft side, but we don't want it brittle. So, and the reason I'm telling you that is that down here where the pliers are grabbing it, it's probably not going to get all cherry red. It's going to take this a while to heat up. So that little thin leg, the one we've been bending, course, it turns orange right off the bat. It's small and thin, so it gets hot a lot faster than the bigger, thicker parts, which take a little longer to heat up. There we are, pretty good, all orange, cherry reddish. Put it in the oil, spin it around a little bit. Again, I go in the water. After spinning oil, it's tempered. It's good to go. It goes in the water simply to cool it that last little bit so I can handle it. All right, now at this point, it should be hard all over. I'm gonna double check. Yeah, zing. Yeah, it's scraping the surface crud scale off, but it's not cutting the metal, it's skidding across it. So, all right, at this point, there's a couple different ways you can temper it. We're gonna have to polish it to bare white metal. We can use a lead pot with saltpeter in it, heat it up to 680 degrees, put this in it, it'll temper it. Or we can lay it on an aluminum plate and heat it up with a propane torch till it turns blue, which is what we're gonna do. Quick and easy and effective. All right, you can see that our safety's polished white. You saw me polish it before. That's basically what I did. I just polished it to bare white metal all around. So now as I heat it up, we're going to be able to see, hopefully, the color change. Not hopefully, we will. And instead of just pouring the heat right to it, I heat this plate up so it will absorb the heat slowly. So we get a good temper all the way through from the surface to the core of the part. So you can see that if I just poured the heat right to it, the surface could turn blue, which is the temper of a spring, roughly, between 600 and 700 degrees. And when it turns blue, you can see that the surface could turn blue and be soft or tempered to that spring, but the core or the center of the material could still be brittle and hard. We don't want that. We want it soft relatively all the way through. So by laying it on an aluminum plate, does a pretty good job of it. You can use a steel plate, but I found that I like this aluminum plate. It seems to work really, really well. Now, one thing I'll do is, since the heat's only coming from one side, is I will flip this over. So now different parts of the safety are touching the aluminum plate, so they'll start to absorb the heat. And we may edit some of this out simply because it's just so time consuming. So what I may do is have our cameraman actually shut this off till we get closer to turning blue, and then have him come back. Okay, so I haven't moved it since you last saw me, but you can see that things are starting to turn a little yellow color. So I wanted to, oh, don't want to throw that on the floor. I just wanted to, again, change positions a little bit so it can absorb heat from a different, and I didn't want you to think I was cheating on you. You can definitely see that's starting to turn kind of a yellowish color. You guys need to watch that heat treating course that AGI's got out, because it covers a lot of different little things that I haven't gone into, because again, this is over the shoulder. This isn't a instructional, if you will, although I am teaching, I guess. I'm going to turn that up so that base can gather some heat. So I'm kind of wanting to turn it. You can see back here it's a little darker yellow, even starting to get a little purplish in there, whereas up here it's not. Let's try that for a bit. Just means that that other end was absorbing heat a little quicker. Right here is the surface we need to be concerned with for sure. We don't want that soft because then the caulking piece will dig into it, gouge it, gall it, and the safety won't want to cam that caulking piece back. And we don't want it so hard that it's brittle. If when you're tempering, the whole thing tempers all at the same time, it's all a pretty blue. It looks nice too. You can leave it that way as a finished work. If it heats kind of like this one's doing in different stages, some of it's blue, some of it's yellow, some of it's purple, it doesn't look quite as good. So we're starting to get some purple in here. A lot of it's turning blue and purple. This edge right here has got kind of a yellow to it. I'm just doing that for cosmetic. Nope. So we got some real pretty blue in here, about the color we want. A little more purple on the shaft and the head over here. So now literally what I'll do is I'll just stop because the plate is hot. And I'll just let that sit there for the next 5 or 10 minutes and absorb the heat from that plate, continue to anneal and come to that blue color. It's at about the right blue color, most of it. There's some little bit of purple here and there, which means it's a little closer to the hard. So I'm going to let that sit and just absorb that heat and continue to anneal. We'll come back and take a look at it right before we're done. All right, so you can see we're blue. Got a little bit of purple in it in a spot or two, but that's going to stay, relatively tough. I might do it again before I give it back to the customer, but this is tempered enough or annealed enough, softened up enough to where it should not break. So let's put her together and see what's going to happen. So again, not a lot of back and forth movement. That's down where it should be, almost against the bolt sleeve. Now, before we put this all the way back together, I'm going to grab some moly grease and I'm going to put it right there on the bearing surface. There we go. Pull out our pin. Look at that. Goes right up to the safety. You can still get on it with that surface. Now we want to make sure, it does it, but we want to make sure that when our safety is pushed up and on, that the cocking piece is pushed to the rear off of the sear. Pull our trigger. Trigger returns fully. If the trigger, you pull the trigger and the sear went down and got underneath the, so the sear sits right here. As we pull the trigger, the sear moves down until the cocking piece can move forward and fire. So when the safety's on, the safety pulls that cocking piece back off of the sear. We pull the trigger. We want our sear to move down. Release the trigger. We want the sear to move back up in front of the sear surface of the cocking piece. If we put the safety on, pulled the trigger, the sear came down, and then we released the trigger, the sear caught right here on the bottom, just right at that edge, and didn't return, what you would get is safety on. We'd pull the trigger wouldn't return. It'd be unsprung. See how we have spring travel? It's spring loaded all the way forward. It'd be loose. And you could, move it and it would just simply flop in there because the sear's held down. So we know that the sear's returning all the way every time we put our safety on. There we go. So the safety's doing its job, doing what it's supposed to. So with the safety on, remember the shaft, the pivot shaft moves up into the little half moon cutout in the back of the bolt. And that catches and doesn't allow the bolt to open unless the safety's off. So now when you're hunting, safety's on, rounds chambered, you put it on your back to crawl through the jungle to sneak up on the whatever, and the chupacabra or whatever, and you don't want the jungle vines to catch your bolt handle and raise it up and your gun to be empty when you get ready to shoot. I like a safety that locks the bolt handle in the closed position like this. The best ones, I feel, are like the Winchester Model 70. Again, this is personal preference, so if you don't like it, that's, hey, all well and good. Everybody's different, right? I like the ones where you can put it all the way on, lock the bolt, put it halfway on, gun still on safe, but you can open the bolt and empty it, and then all the way forward, or if it's a 3-position, however the 3-position is, you can then discharge the gun. That, to me, is the best way. Then you get the best of all the world. You don't have to take it all the way off safe, like this one you do, before you can open the gun and empty it. So There's some people out there that don't like that. When it's on safe, they want to be able to open the gun and empty it. And there's something to be said for that. That's the reason I like the 3 position the best. But good mechanical safety. Another thing I like about this one, it's you saw the safety. There's no springs, there's no plungers, there's no screws, there's no detents. There's not a lot of other crap to get lost, be small, bind up, break, all that kind of thing. It's one solid piece, like the military one solid piece. Simple, less likely to break, get lost, things of that nature. So I like this safety. There are, again, multitude of safeties out there, so you guys know that. We talked about the loose scope. We're done with the safety. I'm going to leave it blue like that. If the customer doesn't like it, we can always polish it and cold blue it or get it blued or Cerakoted, whatever, at a later date. I'm going to leave it alone, touch base with them, let them look at it and see if they like it. So basically, the job it came in for is done. But I did mention the loose scope. I want to touch base with the customer, so we're actually not going to tackle that now on camera. The customer may simply have this scope in here now for us to fit a safety to make sure that it's going to work with a scope in this position. And they may be going to put something else on, so this is just thrown on here quickly, loose, that kind of thing. So they're not going to want to pay me a whole bunch of extra money to put everything in tight if they were going to turn around and put something else on it altogether. So I'll touch base with them, and I'll touch base with you on a next Over the Shoulder with the Gunsmith. Bye now.
If you want to learn real gunsmithing and see more videos like this, be sure and like and subscribe so you don't miss out. If you're interested in training to be a real gunsmith, go check out the AmericanGunsmithinginstitute.com, or for your own firearms training, AmericanGunsmith.com.